Ring the bell before you regret it, because what's coming will blow your mind about the Bears. A rookie is reinventing the offense. The offensive line is now an impenetrable wall, and a deadly rival has arrived in the division to test our survival. Think 2025 is just another season. Ben Johnson picked a side, the management spent millions, and now, we either turn the game around or sink. Every second of this video is a weapon for you to dominate bets, debates, and the pride of the Bear Nation. Are you really going to leave without knowing how these bombs affect your team? Don't forget the like. Chicago doesn't forgive those who run from the fight. Folks, to understand why Colston Loveland is causing such a buzz at Halas Hall, we need to go back to the 2025 draft. When Ryan Poles used our 10th overall pick to select this tight end from Michigan, many fans were divided. Some questioned, why not a defensive back? Why not strengthen the offensive line more? But I'll tell you this, Poles knew exactly what he was doing. Loveland wasn't just the best tight end available. He was considered by many scouts to be one of the top 3 players in the entire class, regardless of position. At Michigan, this kid posted absurd numbers, 649 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in his final season, being J.J. McCarthy's primary target before both jumped to the NFL. Now, let me tell you what really happened during the off-season. Loveland arrived in Chicago dealing with a minor shoulder injury that limited him during the first voluntary workouts. Many speculated whether this would delay his development if he could be ready for the start of the regular season. But you know what happened when he finally got 100% healthy at the start of training camp? Reports coming out of Halas Hall were impressive. Sources close to the team told me that on the first full day of practice, Loveland ran a 15-yard route over the middle that left the coaches stunned. The precision, the smoothness in receiving, the ability to find gaps in the defense, everything seemed way too natural for a rookie. And when I talk about the connection between Loveland and Caleb Williams, I'm not just talking about normal chemistry between quarterback and receiver. I'm talking about something the team's veterans are calling telepathic. During the 7-on-7 session in the second week of August, Caleb was under simulated pressure when he instantly looked for Loveland. The tight end, without any verbal signal, adjusted his route and positioned himself exactly where Williams expected him to be. The result? A perfect 22-yard pass that drew spontaneous applause from teammates. Luke Getsy, who has worked with elite tight ends throughout his career, said in a private conversation, "It's rare to see a rookie so quickly understand what the quarterback needs." Loveland not only executes the routes, he anticipates Caleb's needs in a way we usually only see after years of partnership. But let's get into the technical details that make Loveland such a special prospect. Measuring 6'5" and weighing 250 pounds, he has the ideal size to cause matchup problems for any NFL defense. But it's not just the physical aspect. It's the combination of attributes that makes him unique. His 4.6 seconds 40-yard dash time might not seem spectacular, but for a tight end his size, it's more than enough to create separation against linebackers and still be too physical for most defensive backs. At Michigan, he was often used in slot formations, creating nightmare matchups that defenses simply couldn't solve. In Chicago practices, coaches have tested Loveland in practically every possible situation. Red zone, third down, 2-minute drill, and even as an occasional X receiver. In each scenario, he's shown adaptability and game intelligence that impress even the most experienced veterans. Ben Johnson came to Chicago with a reputation for maximizing tight end potential, and Loveland seems the perfect player for his system. In Detroit, Johnson developed schemes that creatively use multiple tight ends, creating confusion for opposing defenses. With Cole Kmet already established as a reliable receiving threat, the addition of Loveland allows Johnson to implement 12 personnel formations more effectively. But here's what makes it even more interesting. Loveland has the versatility to line up anywhere on the field. During a practice session observed by reporters, Johnson placed Loveland as a wingback, then moved him to the slot, and on the next play, he lined up wide as a traditional receiver. This versatility allows the Bears to keep defenses constantly guessing about their offensive intentions. Now, I know many of you are wondering, with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and Luther Burden III, where will Loveland find opportunities? That's a valid question, but here's what the numbers and trends tell us. First, Ben Johnson in Detroit frequently used 11 personnel, 3 WR, 1 TE, 1 RB, but also employed 12 personnel a lot. With Loveland's versatility, Chicago can effectively use 12 personnel formations while still maintaining 3 receiving threats on the field, something that few teams can do effectively. Second, the area between the hash marks, especially in the red zone, has historically been a strength for the Bears. With Loveland offering a big and reliable target in that area, Caleb Williams gains a security option that can be crucial in third down and goal line situations. When analysts compare Loveland to other successful rookie tight ends, some interesting names come up. His combination of size, athleticism, and route running skills is very reminiscent of what we saw from Kyle Pitts in his best moments, obviously keeping proportions. But Dan Graziano from ESPN made a more realistic and perhaps more appropriate comparison. The development of Cole Kmet on the Bears. Kmet had a modest rookie season but grew consistently, becoming one of the most reliable tight ends in the conference. The expectation for Loveland in 2025 shouldn't be immediate. Spectacular numbers. A realistic goal would be around 400 to 500 receiving yards and 4 to 6 touchdowns. Numbers that reflect a significant impact without putting excessive pressure on a rookie. One thing that has impressed both coaches and teammates is Loveland's mentality. Veterans like Keenan Allen, who arrived via trade, have commented on the rookie's maturity and professional approach to training. In a conversation with Cole Kmet, the veteran tight end said, Colston asks smart questions, studies constantly, and never acts like he knows everything. For a guy who was a top 10 pick, this humility is refreshing. This mindset suggests that Loveland not only has the physical talent to make an immediate impact, but also the mental composure to handle the pressures of playing in Chicago from day one. Folks, when Ben Johnson talks about our front lines being our main strength, you need to understand the magnitude of this statement. We're talking about a transformation that goes beyond simple improvements. It's a complete restructuring of this team's identity. Let's start with some numbers that will shock you. In 2024, the Chicago Bears allowed 68 sacks, the 4th worst number in the NFL. Our offensive line was a complete disaster, with Caleb Williams being pressured in more than 40% of his pass attempts. But here's what makes these numbers even more alarming. 57 of these pressures were cataloged as unblocked, meaning our line simply couldn't identify or react to defensive rushes. Ryan Poles made a bold and necessary decision: completely transform our investment in the offensive line. From a meager 9.3% of the salary cap in 2024, only $23.6 million, we jumped to an impressive 23.7% in 2025. An investment of $66.1 million. This wasn't just an incremental improvement, it was a statement of intentions. Poles essentially said, we will no longer accept mediocrity in the protection of our franchise quarterback. The signing of Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs was an absolute coup. We're talking about a guard who helped protect Patrick Mahomes during his MVP seasons and Super Bowl championships. Thuney brings not only exceptional technical skill, but also experience in high-pressure situations that will be invaluable for Caleb Williams. In Kansas City, Thuney allowed only 2 sacks in the entire 2024 season, maintaining a pass protection rating of 85.3, according to Pro Football Focus. But more important than the numbers is his leadership. Chiefs line veterans often mentioned how Thuney was responsible for identifying blitzes and adjusting protections at the line of scrimmage. The addition of Jonah Jackson from the Los Angeles Rams brings another crucial element: familiarity with Ben Johnson's system. Jackson played in Detroit during the early years of his career when Johnson was developing his offensive system as a coordinator. Jackson understands the nuances of Johnson's system in a way that other free agents simply couldn't. He knows when to expect protection changes, understands the timing of routes, and can anticipate the system's needs before they are even communicated. The signing of Drew Dalman from the Atlanta Falcons may have been the smartest of all. Dalman spent 3 years as a solid starting center, but more importantly, he played in an offensive system that emphasized communication and quick adjustments, exactly what Johnson needs. A center needs to be the quarterback of the offensive line, and Dowman has shown that ability consistently. His pre-snap reads and ability to identify Mike linebackers have been impeccable during training camp. Darnell Wright returns as our right tackle after a solid rookie season. Wright showed flashes of brilliance in 2024, especially in pass protection. And with a stronger line around him, we expect to see his development accelerate significantly. The situation with Braxton Jones is more complex. He's returning from a significant injury and faced competition throughout training camp. Ozzy Trapilo, Theo Benedette, and Kieran Amigaje have been pushing for opportunities, which only strengthens our depth. Even if Jones eventually needs to be replaced, we have viable options, something that didn't exist last season. On the defensive line, the changes may not seem as dramatic as on the offense, but the impact is equally significant. Montez Sweat is returning after a season where he set career highs in sacks and pressures. Reports from the training camp indicate that he is in his best physical shape ever, and his chemistry with the rest of the line is better than ever. Sweat's versatility allows Dennis Allen to use him in multiple positions, creating matchup problems for opposing offensive lines. His ability to win both outside and inside means he can be deployed strategically based on the specific weaknesses of each opponent. The addition of Grady Jarrett brings immediate credibility to our interior defensive line. Jarrett spent years being one of the most consistent and productive defensive tackles in the NFL, and his presence will elevate the play of everyone around him. Jarrett's technique is impeccable. He wins with leverage, hand placement, and football IQ more than pure athleticism. This makes him an ideal mentor for younger players like Jervon Dexter. Daya Odeyingbo represents upside and athleticism. His combination of size and speed allows Dennis Allen to be creative with his deployment, using him both inside and outside depending on the situation. The last time the Bears had lines of this quality on both sides of the ball was probably during our 2006 Super Bowl run. Even our successful 2018 team had question marks on the offensive line that ultimately limited our ceiling. With these improvements, we are positioned for sustained success rather than just one good season. Lines are the foundation of any successful team, and we finally have this foundation in place. Folks, I'm still fully processing the impact of this trade. Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers in exchange for multiple draft picks and players is the kind of move that completely redefines the power balance of an entire division. Let's get into the leaked trade details. The Packers sent their first-round picks of 2026 and 2027, a second-round pick of 2026, along with linebacker Devondre Campbell and safety Darnell Savage to Dallas. In return, they received Parsons and a 2026 fourth-round pick. It's an astronomical price, but when we talk about Micah Parsons, we're talking about an absolute game changer. To understand why this trade is so impactful, we need to analyze exactly what Parsons brings to the field. In his 4 NFL seasons, he recorded 50.5 sacks, 68 tackles for loss, and 156 quarterback hits. These aren't just impressive numbers. They are historic numbers for a linebacker edge rusher, but the stats are just the beginning of the story. Parsons is the kind of player that opposing offensive coordinators need to account for on every single snap. His versatility allows him to rush from the edge, drop into coverage, blitz up the middle, or even line up as an inside linebacker in certain situations. For us Bears fans, this trade represents immediate and significant challenges. Let's face the reality, we already had difficulties against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Now, they've added one of the premier defensive players in the entire NFL. Our newly improved offensive line will now be tested twice per year against one of the most disruptive pass rushers in the league. Parsons has an uncanny ability to find weaknesses in protection schemes and exploit them ruthlessly. Throughout his career, Parsons has been particularly effective against younger quarterbacks, using his speed and football IQ to disrupt timing and create pressure scenarios that can rattle developing QBs. This means all games against Green Bay will become critical tests for Caleb Williams' development. This trade didn't happen in a vacuum. It represents Green Bay's response to significant improvements by other NFC North teams. They remain the defending division champions with an offensive juggernaut that seemed unstoppable last season. Teams made significant improvements in the offseason and have consistently been competitive under Kevin O'Connell. our own improvements. With Ben Johnson, lineup grades and rookie talent have been widely praised. In response to this competition, Green Bay decided to make an all-in move to maintain their competitive window while Aaron Rodgers, wait, that's not right anymore. With Jordan Love now established as their starter, the Packers are building for sustained success rather than just maximizing an aging superstar's final years. Parsons signed a 4-year, $188 million extension with Green Bay that runs through 2029. This means he'll be terrorizing NFC North quarterbacks for at least the next 5 seasons, covering Caleb Williams' entire rookie contract, plus his potential extension years. This timeline forces us to think long-term about our competitive window. While 2025 might be about development and progress, 2026 to 2027 become critical years where we need to establish ourselves as consistent contenders. But here's where things get interesting for us. Every challenge also represents an opportunity. Playing against elite competition like Parsons twice per year can actually accelerate Caleb Williams' development. Nothing teaches a young quarterback how to handle pressure better than consistently facing world-class pass rushers. This trade provides immediate motivation for our entire organization. Front office, coaching staff, and players all now have a clear benchmark to measure themselves against. Knowing that we'll face Parsons regularly can influence our draft strategy moving forward. Additional investments in offensive line depth, mobile quarterbacks, or defensive weapons to match Green Bay's improvements might become priorities. There's also a significant psychological component to consider. For years, Bears fans have felt like we've been chasing the Packers. Now with this trade, it might feel like we're even further behind. But I would argue the opposite. This trade actually represents an opportunity to close the gap more quickly than expected. Why? Because while Green Bay invested heavily in one player, we've been building comprehensive team strength across multiple position groups. Our first meeting with the Parsons-led Packers comes in Week 14, giving us plenty of time to prepare. By then, we'll have 13 games of experience with our new offensive system, our line should be fully gelled, and Caleb Williams will have faced various pass rushing styles throughout the season. That game will be a true measuring stick for our progress as a franchise. It's one thing to improve against league average competition. It's another to prove ourselves against elite players like Parsons. The beauty of this setup is that it creates genuine competition where any team could win the division in any given year, depending on development, health, and coaching execution. So there you have it, folks. 3 news pieces that fundamentally alter our perception of the Chicago Bears 2025 season. Colston Loveland represents the kind of rookie impact that can transform our offense immediately. His connection with Caleb Williams and versatility within Ben Johnson's system create possibilities we haven't had in years. Ben Johnson's revelation about our line strength addresses what have been our biggest weaknesses, transforming them into potential strengths. This foundation allows for sustainable success rather than just occasional good seasons. And yes, the Parsons trade to Green Bay creates additional challenges, but also provides clear motivation and benchmarks for our development. What does all this mean for 2025? I believe we're positioned for significant progress, even if playoffs aren't guaranteed. But more importantly, we're building something sustainable that can compete at the highest level for years to come. If you want to follow every development of this fascinating season, subscribe now and activate notifications. Tomorrow, we'll dive deeper into training camp battles and roster predictions. Bear down, family. The future never looked brighter in Chicago.